have to deal with, whether it's recognized as such or not, for the approaching year. Because the truth of the matter is, as long as the wars go on in Iraq, and as long as the wars go on in Afghanistan, and as long as our national policies are policies aimed at the war economy and militarization of the society and frightening the rest of the world, as long as that's possible, whatever the Board of Aldermen decides in terms of health or education or jobs, as Governor Richardson said the other night at the Democratic primary, is a loser. Because there are no funds. There are absolutely no funds at all for the city. And we know already that the city has expended for the war over $250 million out of the city of New Haven, with no end in sight. And so we wonder why our young people are shooting and are dispirited, without jobs and without hope for a future. We wonder why people are paying $3.22 and above for oil, and we have to plead with Venezuela to discount oil so that our elderly and our poor can heat their homes. These two resolutions, one calling for the withdrawal of our troops from Iraq, which 70% of the city of New Haven supports, and perhaps nationally as well, and the other calling for a considered policy for the abolition of nuclear weapons. And the reason we were given to going into Iraq was because of the existence of nuclear weapons. And we possess more nuclear weapons than any country in the world, and 2,000 of them are on high alert, with no enemy in sight. Should the Board of Aldermen join the other 300 cities around the country that have voted for this resolution? Absolutely. Should they join the 17 states that have voted for this resolution? Absolutely. Should our leadership speak for the needs and desires of our community? Absolutely. Is it in their province to do so? Yes. Is it leadership? Yes. And so I hope that the board hears us, hears our voices, and will vote affirmatively on both resolutions. There is a record. Our city is a peace messenger city, so recognized by the United Nations. Previous boards have voted for the abolition of nuclear weapons, and I hope this board continues that tradition. One of the co-sponsors of this press conference and our activity is Gary Holder-Winfield, who is chairman of the Black Democrats.
A little more than 40 years ago, someone whose legacy we'll be celebrating in about a week or so stepped forward to say that it may trouble a man to go against his country's policies, but his conscience had called him to do so. And I think this evening, those of us gathered around here, our consciences have called us to come forward and say something. So people may look at us whenever these stories are written and look at us and see what they want to see. They'll see weakness, they'll see leftists, they'll see people who aren't patriotic. But I say that's not who we are. I say that we are people like myself. Some of us have supported this war machine. I spent 8 years in the military, thinking with boyish youth that I would be supporting and defending the Constitution of the United States. But as I grew in the Navy and became a man, I saw that what I was supporting and defending were the personal agendas of people who didn't have my interest or your interest at heart. didn't have America's interest at heart. And that's disheartening for a person who went in for the reasons that I went in. And so I think that while we're standing here supporting these two resolutions, one thing that we must remember as we're standing in a time when people are talking about change is that these politicians are all now talking about change. They're all talking about the same thing. And so in that message of change, as everybody's come to the same point, I think we can see that there's not really a change that they're talking about. They're focusing on whatever is possible to get them elected. And it's that when we come out and we use our voices to make them pay attention to us, that they will move. You know, America 40 years ago was at a certain place where we were in a war that many of us as Americans didn't want to be in. But 40 years later, we find ourselves in a similar place. And so I say to you that this vote that the Board of Aldermen has to take is not a political move. It's a principled stand that they have to take. And if they're principled men and women, they will take that stand. Good evening.
Thank you.
We're very, very pleased that 2008 on the Board of Aldermen, one of us will be sitting as an alderperson. I don't have to introduce alderpersons, everybody knows.